Today's meeting is about openness and security. It is about contraction and limitlessness. These are the two cycles where there is contraction and opening. Contraction and opening. These cycles of contracting and opening are everywhere. The human nature is very contracted nature, and that's why security is a big topic. And openness is not easy, although it's very natural, but it's not easy because there are so many tensions, so many resistances, so many contractions. The average human person, the average walking in the street, is a very contracted energy field. This energy field is so contracted that it's like a block, like a rock. It's so solid, it's like iceberg. If we compare it to the water, water has many states. One is ice, which is solid state. Then there is a liquid state. And then there is the evaporated state, which is the humidity. So the human energy system is a very contracted energy field. And that's what people usually call it as the mind. You see, the mind doesn't exist as such a thing. It's not really real. It is only relatively real because there is identification with energetic contractions. And thus, as a consequence, a small portion of energy is expressed as what you call thoughts on the very surface level, telling you that something is wrong. So thoughts are energy expressions that something is wrong, and they're little pointers to the actual problem of contraction of your energy field. So thoughts arise only when there is a certain disharmony within your energy field, which also includes emotions and feelings. So thoughts are, we could say, the surface interpretations of the actual reality being experienced. Emotions, feelings are actually energies, which are slower energies. And most likely there's a certain distortion, disharmony, and thus emotion is expressed as a negative emotion. In reality, there is also no negative or positive because that is duality. It is only one's relationship with a certain feeling, emotion, and energy, which can be said that you experience a very severe distortion in your energy field, and thus you define that energy as negative. That energy is not negative. It is a severe distortion in your energy field. So you see, the human nature is very ignorant, and human beings have invented many words like negative emotions, the mind, and so forth, which in reality do not exist. The reality is based on energy, on frequency and harmony. So diseases and negativities as such are simply distortions and having no capacity to manage them, and thus for the sake of convenience saying that that was a negative emotion. So what is security? What is security? Most likely it denotes, in most common terms, it denotes a sense of underlying anxiousness and underlying fear. So thus, speaking of security, we should actually speak about underlying anxiousness and fear. And would you need any sense of security if you had no anxiousness and fear? If you had no anxiousness and fear, what would you have otherwise? Joy, happiness, love. So do you need security? If you have joy, happiness, love, do you need security? No. So security is actually a contraction, and thus there is a certain fear, anxiety of not knowing how to deal with that contraction, and thus one is seeking for security, which perhaps means inability to change, being afraid of unknownness, of something new, being afraid of changes, being afraid of losing or not having control. Of course, material security or relationship security is actually a fear of loneliness, a fear of lack. So security as such also doesn't exist unless we speak about the actual underlying anxieties and fears. So if the energy field is open and it's on high frequency, then security wouldn't even cross your awareness. You would think or you would experience in terms of joy, love, and openness. And when a certain challenge comes, you would learn how to be deeply able to meet that energy of challenge. How to deal with challenge, how to deeply meet the energy of challenge, the challenging energy. So everything in the universe really exists in terms of energy, and of course there's consciousness behind it, powering up all that energy. So energy is the actual relative reality. It's we could say, the real relative reality, and the human reality is very much invented for the sake of conveniences, terminologies, inability to deal with them, thus labeling them as negative, making all kinds of ideas, belief systems, and conveniences in understanding, saying, oh yeah, you feel sadness, well, don't be sad, tomorrow might be a better day. What a ignorant way of living. The sadness actually requires a deeper energetic meeting, and thus it reveals a deeper wisdom which one should learn of how to be more aligned with life. And the saying, maybe tomorrow is gonna be a better day, it's ignorant way, because sadness is gonna still come up in cycles. It's not gonna disappear anywhere unless you will actually meet it and work on it and gain the wisdom out of it and ultimately transcend it to have wisdom and insight. The only reason why you become angry is because something happened not as you expected, isn't it? Why else would you become angry? If you would already know how things are and you would already fully have complete absolute understanding of a circumstance, anger is impossible, isn't it? So you only become angry because of not understanding what happened or why it happened, and a certain expectation that it's supposed to be different. I thought it's gonna be different, or it always used to be that way, and thus it happened in different way. Anger, inability to deal with the changing circumstance coming up in a present moment. So thus we can derive a conclusion that the human nature is very contracted, it's very limited, and very ignorant. And thus everybody invented these convenient terminologies which give no power at all if one uses that way, the convenient way of thinking, the common way of thinking. There's no power at all. It doesn't guide one into the inner power. Even anger is not yours. When you're saying, I am angry, you're already making mistakes. Because you are already identifying, you're saying, I am angry, you're saying that anger is yours. No, it's not. It's not real. It's not yours. Anger is a certain energy that requires a deeper presence. It's not your anger. How can you claim the anger to be yours if everybody else also feels anger? You know, it's not yours in the first place. So I am angry already has identification, and already by definition that it's mine, and thus it has no power. It's not the right way. When you make that statement in yourself, you're disempowering yourself. You understand? So thus you really have to change a lot of ways that you think, first of all, and learn the ways of how to be with what you feel, with what you experience, with what energy, feeling, emotion is here within you. And that is empowering way. That is the right relationship which will allow you to grow. Openness is your natural nature. You actually need no effort at all to be open. But you need a lot of effort to overcome contractions. So when you're saying that I'm trying to be open now, you're trying to be not contracted now. That's what you're really saying. Because in the real reality, your nature is openness. But of course that is not experienced because of contractions are being experienced. So what one would really say is that you're trying to be not contracted. Why is openness your true nature? Is because you are already aware of the whole environment, yourself, your experience right now, aren't you? You are. Do you need any effort to be aware of this environment already? No. But you need a lot of effort not to be limited in your perception, which is your habitual identification with limitations. That's where you need a lot of effort. So your perception is limited, but you are already fully open. But in your experience, there is a very limited perception of limitation. And that's where, yes, effort is needed. So in that regards, in the distorted reality regards, yes, you need effort to overcome limitations But in the real reality, you are already open. So there's that borderline of we could say non-dual language, but you have to really understand that your nature is openness, but yes, you need effort because you're habituated to limitations. So one has to really investigate every moment experience and learn more about the real nature of energy, which includes your thoughts, feelings, emotions, and your body. So through your body, thoughts, feelings, emotions, you need to learn about energy and the way that energy really works, really functions. It's not new. It's definitely not new. It's 14 billion years old, the way it already works. So there's nothing really new that I'm saying, or it's not even a teaching. It's not a belief system. I'm just saying how the universe actually works, how the energy actually works, how you actually work, and how everything is confused, and thus all the power is taken away from you with all of those convenient terminologies. So first step, you have to really investigate your every experience of your emotions, thoughts, feelings, your body, to gain a deeper insight into the way of energy. The way of energy. So that is called the Great Way. The Great Way. The Great Way of Being. The Great Way of Being. So that is realization of the way of energy, the great way of being. In a lesser terms, I could say the way of living, but living already means certain things in your head. It's about life. So let's call it the way of being, because it's not about experiences of life. It's about being, learning how to, the way of being. And the second step, of course, it's self-realization. Realizing your true nature, who you really are. Realizing the core of who you really already are, undoubtedly. So that's called self-realization. And that's also not new. It's not, you're not going to discover something totally new that, it's this and that. No, it's quite simple. The brightness is already allowing you to be aware in this moment. So you are already aware. But you're not giving it so much value because you're very much entertained by your thoughts. There's a whole entertainment theme park in your head going on. And you're following and having a roller coaster, up and down and left and right, and everything is smooth, and then you slam and hit the wall with your head. It's a whole theme park. One day is bright, another day it's a horror movie. It's a theme park, totally in your head. Isn't it exciting? So thus you give no value to the brightness of awareness. Say, it's there. Where is it? I can't see. What's the next thought? And you follow it. It's so veiled. There's like so much limitation of your perception, and you're habituated to follow your focus. To follow what pops in front of you. You know, this thought, that thought, and message, and this and this and this and that, and you follow all of that, forgetting the brightness of your seeing, the unlimited perception in the now already. And then, of course, it's hard, you know, to be unlimited because you're so habituated for the last few decades to be entertained by your mind. So when your mind starts to give you the real trouble, then you say, okay, now it's time to fix it. It's not so fun anymore. So it's actually good that the mind gives you trouble, because otherwise you would be sleeping on a cloud and continuing your dreams, your dream realities. So it's actually good that you know, life pushes you, you know, and that the mind gives you some trouble. You need that to grow. That's called a certain struggle or a certain effort that is needed to grow. Because again, the human nature is very lazy nature. You know, if everything is good, you know, what you do, you just like lay on a beach, you know, in Thailand. It's all good. You know, and you know, that's a very common thing. And then, you know, you start getting feelings that you should do something, or actually it's not as good as you thought. So luckily there's something inside you that will propel you to grow and to actually come out of those dreams and illusions, or simply the places of camping. So a certain struggle is needed that will propel you to grow. And once you align yourself with growth, then you don't experience struggle as such anymore. Because it's just a way of being. It's learning how to constantly be present, alive, aware, conscious, and every moment to be fully with what comes, with what is here. So this, again, struggle is dissolved, effort is dissolved, it's just the way of being. So eventually all those dualities of openness, security, tension and releasing, letting go and holding, and all of these dualities are there for you to grow into the way of being and realizing who you are, what you already have, and what is the real you. Any questions? When you fully align with the great way, there is no more struggle as such.
So when you are struggling,
it means there is a certain resistance to the great way, to the way. So even if something, a new energy hits you, and if you know the great way, you will welcome it. You won't resist it. And in that welcoming non-resistance, then there is a right relationship to deepen your meeting with the now. There's also a difference between struggling and growing. Yes. If you align yourself with growing, every day it's always a new experience. Every hour, every 20 minutes, every 10 minutes, there's a new energy arising. Every now is fresh and new. But the energy usually flows a bit slower, generally. It's all new and fresh always, but the energy usually it's flowing, you know. It's not like one moment like this and like that. It doesn't flip. The energy flows. There's no stopping it, no suppressing it, no denying it, no resisting energy, what you experience. Anything that you suppress, deny, resist, push away, eventually you make it worse, or you will eventually need to deal with it. Because otherwise you will be on a path of degradation, degrading, suppressing and accumulating, contracting, becoming more solid as an iceberg. And that is the path of degradation into basically death as such. Okay, very interesting question. It has two parts. One is that not that you don't have emotions as such, you come into the right relationship with those emotions, which are energies, and you transcend them. So that's number one. And number two, your question, what facilitates action?
Exactly. You're not angry with the situation in your life that you're not happy with, for instance. Most of the sort of person will make you realize to move, to change.
In that perception of reality, then you do need some anger as such to facilitate your change. In my reality, I don't need anger as such because every moment is changing. So I'm fully aligned with the change. So there's no need of any facilitation of action, because if action is required, it will be done. It's alignment with what is happening now, flowing now, without resistance. So only if you hold certain contraction or resistance, then you hit a wall, which is anger. And then it wakes you up to find a way to align and learn and grow.